Plant moves. Yes, plant moves. This is Dr. Pankaj Kumar, your mentor, and in this sessions we will be talking about what are the different types of movement what we can observe in case of plant, right? You see, within the plants we can see two types of movements. One, what we call movement of locomotion, and second, what we call movement of curvature. Now let's try to understand that how we can differentiate between movement of locomotion and movement of curvature. In case of movement of locomotion, what happens? That entire plant is moving, okay? But in case of movement of curvature, what we can say? That part of a plant is moving, okay? It may be stem or it may be some other things. So if a part of plant is moving, then we are calling movement of curvature. But if the entire plant is moving, then we are calling movement of locomotion. Again, you can see there that it has been further divided into autonomic and paratonic. Now what is autonomic? Autonomic is a self movement that is not going to be induced by anything, okay? But suppose if the movement is going to occur under the influence of certain external factor, maybe light, maybe chemical, or maybe some other factors, then we call it as a paratonic or induced. So we can see that movement of locomotion can be autonomic, it can be paratonic. Similarly, movement of curvature can also be autonomic as well as it can be paratonic, okay? So one by one we will see all these things, right? So have a look first of all the movement of locomotion, and these are the well-known movement of locomotion, what we call ciliary, flagellar, pseudopodial. Now in case of ciliary, what happens? Mostly it is observed in animal cells, okay? But there are few lower groups in which you can identify the cilia, but mostly it is present in case of animal cells, and cilia are nothing but they are the microtubules, okay? Flagellar locomotion is observed in many plants. For instance, take an example of dinoflagellates. In case of dinoflagellates, you know very well that movement, the entire plant moves with the help of flagella, okay? And there are large number of phytoplankton that is going to show the flagellar locomotion. If you talk about the pseudopodia is observed in case of slime mold, right? In case of slime mold, we know very well they have a plasmodial mass. So as a result, they move by the formation of pseudopodia, okay? Now let's talk about the induced movement of locomotion, okay? Now induced movement of locomotion can be phototactic, chemotactic, rheotactic. Now let's try to understand the word tactic. Okay, so tactic word means that we are talking about movement of locomotion, or rather induced movement of locomotion, okay? So actually you see these movements are usually observed in lower plants. For instance, take an example of the movement of sperms in case of bryophyte or pteridophyte. They move under the influence of chemicals. For instance, in case of bryophyte, the movement is going to occur under the influence of sucrose, but in case of pteridophyte, even in case of gymnosperm or in case of angiosperms, the movement of a sperm is going to occur under the influence of the malic acid. So these are the chemotactic movement, right? Now let's talk about autonomic movement of curvature. There are certain plants which show self movement without any being influenced by any outer stimulus, and it can be two types, what we call nutation, and second what we call circumnutation. Now first of all, have a look at nutation, and the typical example of nutation is the leaflets in Indian telegraph plant, what we call Desmodium gyrans. You might have seen this plant. You see these leaf show periodic up and down movement, okay? So why periodic up and down movement occur? The reason being that what happens that if I draw a structure of a petiole, so what happens if the upper side is going to have more movement, right? Then what will happen? It will droop down. At some time, if the lower side is going to have more movement, what will happen? It will go up. So the same alternate upper and lower movement is going to occur, okay? And that movement is actually called as a nutatory movement, right? Now there is a one circumnutation. Now suppose in case of circumnutation, what happens if the movement is going to occur only at one side? For instance, let's see that suppose this is a stem or a tendril like structure, and if the movement is going to occur only at this side, what will happen? it will move over here. Okay, and if movement is going to occur only one side, then over the period of time, what will happen? It will form a tendril structure. So if the movement is going to occur only at one side, then that will leads to a tendril structure as observed in the diagram, right? So this is what we call circumnutation. So we can differentiate between nutation and circumnutation by keeping just one fact in our mind, that in case of nutation, there is going to have alternate movement from epibasal and hypobasal region, but in case of circumnutation, the movement is going to occur only at one side, resulting into tendrilar growth, right? Now let's talk about paratonic movement, that is induced movement. Okay, again in case of paratonic, there are two type movements, what we call tropic and nastic. Now what is the difference? You see, tropic is a directional movement. If the movement is going to occur in the direction of the stimulus, then we call it as a tropic movement. Take an example of phototropic, plant is moving towards the light. Take an example of geotropic, root is moving towards the gravity, under the stimulus of gravity, right? Hydrotropic, the plant is moving towards the source of water. Okay, so if the movement is towards the direction of the stimulus, then we call it as a tropic movement. On contrary, if you talk about nastic movement is a non-directional movement. For instance, there are certain plants in which during the day hours the leaf open and during the night hours it closes. But here opening and closing is not in the direction of night or day. It is independent of the direction of the night and day. Even the light is coming from this way or that way, every time it will open, and during the night it is again going to close. So whenever the movement is going to occur independent of the direction of the stimulus, we call it as a nastic movement. So again you see, the tropic movement can be geotropic, phototropic, thigmotropic. Thigmotropic is the touch stimulus, because you see when tendril touches, it start moving towards that. This is what we call thigmotropic. Okay. Then nastic movement can be photonastic, nyctinastic, seismonastic. Nycti, that means the movement going to occur during the night. Seismonastic, movement going to occur due to the touch, right? Let's try to understand first of all how phototropic movements occur, and for this one particular theory, what we call Cholodny wind theory, is actually given over there. So this theory is actually talking about that phototropic movement or geotropic movement is going to occur due to the influence of hormone, and that is auxin. So as you can see in the diagram, that there is an accumulation of auxin due to gravity. Okay, and the very feature is that auxin under high concentration in case of radicals suppresses the growth. So here it is suppressing growth. When the growth is going to suppress, what will happen? It will have a downward bending, and this is what we call geotropic. Okay, but on contrary, what happens that the auxin in pluvule at higher concentration is going to promote growth. Okay, so that's why it is going to have upward bending like this. So this is actually called as a phototropic movement, right? So the theory explains the phototropic and geotropic movement. Okay, right, let's talk about the last one, what we call seismonastic movement. And all of you might have heard about the touch me not plant, or chui mui, what in Hindi we called it. Okay, the scientific name is what we call Mimosa pudica. So what happens here, we are calling it seismonastic because the stimulus is the movement is going to occur independent of the direction of the stimulus. We touch it, the leaves droop down. Now what is the reason? The reason lies in this particular structure, what is called pulvinus. Okay, so what happens when there is a touch? There is a sharp transfer of potassium ion from the leaf to the pulvinus. So here what happens, that there is a increased concentration of potassium resulting into increased osmotic potential. So as a result, the entire water from the leaf actually start moving to the pulvinus area. So once the water moves, what will happen? The leaves will droop down. Okay, so the very reason for drooping down of the leaves is due to sharp endosmosis, right? So this is all as far as entire plant movement is concerned. Okay, thank you.